Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today the world is witnessing one of the most remarkable and unexpected geopolitical turns in recent history. Europe has taken a step that no one anticipated would come this fast or this strong. A coordinated strike of economic, political, and strategic proportions has shaken the foundations of Russia's global influence. Billions of dollars once belonging to Russian elites, state enterprises, and government accounts have been seized, frozen, and repurposed to support Ukraine's war effort. This move represents not just a financial blow, but a psychological one. For decades, Russia relied on its wealth, hidden in Western banks, offshore havens, and luxury properties scattered across Europe. Now those same assets are being turned against the very state that created them. From the outside, the world sees an operation that appears calm and procedural, but beneath the surface lies a web of international coordination unlike anything seen before. European nations, long criticized for their slow, bureaucratic systems, have moved with unprecedented speed. The decision to redirect Russian assets toward Ukraine's defense effort was not made overnight. It followed months of planning, intelligence gathering, and covert financial tracing. Every yacht, every luxury mansion, every account under a shell company was investigated, verified, and frozen under a new series of EU and allied financial sanctions. The outcome is a united Europe standing firm against Russian aggression, no longer divided by economic dependence or political hesitation. This unity has sent shockwaves not only through Moscow, but across the global markets that have long profited from Russian wealth. Inside this operation lies an intricate interior mechanism powered by advanced data analytics, cybersecurity, and intelligence collaboration. The financial warfare units in Majors. Our European capitals have been working around the clock to locate hidden assets that often pass through multiple countries before reaching their final destination. Sophisticated algorithms have been used to detect unusual financial flows, shell corporations, and fake identities used to hide oligarchic wealth. The entire process operates in near silence, without public fanfare, yet the results are visible everywhere. Major Russian figures have found themselves cut off from their funds overnight, their private jets grounded, their estates sealed, their accounts inaccessible. The silent yet powerful machinery of European financial control has turned into a weapon of precision. It doesn't kill or destroy, but it neutralizes power by removing access to wealth. The performance of this strategy has exceeded even the most optimistic expectations. Russia's financial system is under immense pressure. The ruble, already unstable, continues to slide as international confidence fades. Domestic inflation has skyrocketed, and ordinary citizens are struggling with higher prices and shortages. Major energy companies, once proud symbols of Russian might, are losing partners and markets. Oil and gas revenues are shrinking, forcing the government to tap into reserves that are themselves at risk of seizure. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military capabilities are being quietly strengthened through the redirected funds. These resources are being used to buy drones, missiles, air defense systems, and other critical equipment. European manufacturers, previously cautious about supplying arms, now have the funding and political approval to expand production. Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines are receiving better supplies, logistics, and technology, all indirectly financed by the same money that was once used to fund the invasion. What makes this development particularly significant is its emphasis on safety and containment. Europe's leaders are aware that every action has the potential to provoke retaliation, but they have designed their approach to minimize direct confrontation. Instead of troops or tanks, they are deploying legal and economic power. Every move is carefully backed by international law, ensuring legitimacy on the world stage. Cybersecurity defenses have been strengthened across the continent to prevent Russian retaliation through digital attacks. Financial institutions are now protected by multi-layered systems that can detect and neutralize hacking attempts within seconds. At the same time, public awareness campaigns have been launched to prepare citizens for potential disruptions, ensuring that Europe remains resilient in the face of Russian countermeasures. The unique selling point of this strategy is its moral and psychological depth. This is not merely a sanction or punishment, it's a rebalancing of justice. The wealth that was built through corruption, exploitation, and the manipulation of global systems is now being redirected to defend the very principles that those systems were supposed to uphold: freedom, sovereignty, and democracy. Every euro and dollar taken from hidden Russian assets is a symbolic victory for transparency and accountability. The message is clear: aggression and authoritarianism will not be rewarded with protection in European financial systems. This new doctrine could reshape global finance itself. Other nations are already considering similar measures, recognizing that economic power can achieve what traditional military action cannot: the gradual dismantling of an aggressor's ability to sustain war. The cost of this bold step, however, is not insignificant. European economies are facing short-term turbulence. Energy prices have risen, industry powers, as dependent on Russian resources, are adapting to new suppliers, and markets are adjusting to instability. But these challenges are viewed as necessary sacrifices in pursuit of a greater goal. For years, Europe's dependence on Russian gas and oil created political vulnerability. Now, the continent is rapidly transitioning toward independence through renewable energy investments and diversified partnerships. Nations like Germany, France, and Poland are leading massive infrastructure projects aimed at ensuring long-term energy security. In the long view, this crisis could mark the end of Europe's dependence on authoritarian regimes and the beginning of a new era of economic and moral sovereignty. For Russia, the internal fallout is intensifying. The Kremlin's power structure relies heavily on loyalty purchased through wealth and influence. When those funds disappear, so does control. Oligarchs who once lived in luxury across Europe now find themselves trapped between loyalty to the state and the desire to recover their fortunes. Many are quietly voicing frustration, while others are seeking escape routes that no longer exist. The pressure on Putin is not only external but internal, as divisions within his circle deepen. With the loss of financial leverage, his ability to maintain loyalty among elites and regional leaders weakens. Even within the Russian military, reports of dissatisfaction are growing, as funding shortages lead to declining morale and inadequate supplies. On the streets of Russia, the population is beginning to feel the impact in everyday life. Prices for essential goods continue to climb, international products have disappeared, and job opportunities are shrinking. The state-controlled media still paints a picture of defiance and strength, but the cracks are showing. More citizens are beginning to question the narrative, especially as news of lost Fort Sods, Yuns, and international humiliation spreads online. The younger generation, already skeptical of government propaganda, sees Europe's actions not just as an attack, but as a revelation of the system's V. Ukraine, on the other hand, is entering a new phase of determination and hope. The redirected Russian funds have allowed the government to stabilize key sectors and rebuild confidence. Reconstruction projects are being launched even in war-torn regions. With increased funding for technology and defense, Ukraine is not just surviving, but evolving into a model of resilience. European support has strengthened its diplomatic standing, allowing it to negotiate from a position of strength. The moral victory of turning the invaders' money into a weapon of defense has inspired both soldiers and civilians alike. This symbolic reversal has become a rallying cry for unity and perseverance. Across the Atlantic, the United States and its allies are closely watching Europe's bold approach. The success of this financial offensive could reshape global sanctions policy. Washington has praised the European initiative and is preparing to complement it with new measures targeting Russia's remaining international assets. This alignment between Europe and the United States signals a revival of Western unity that had been weakening in recent years. Together, they are demonstrating that coordinated financial power can rival military might in the modern era. Other nations, such as Japan, Canada, and Australia, are following suit, freezing Russian wealth within their borders and redirecting it toward humanitarian and defense purposes in Ukraine. This wave of coordinated action has also created a new precedent in international law. Until now, frozen assets remained untouchable, often sitting idle in legal limbo. Europe's decision to legally justify their use for rebuilding and defense has broken new ground. International courts are debating the implications, and future wars may be influenced more by economic leverage than by physical force. The doctrine of economic accountability, that aggressors will lose control over their assets and see them used to repair the damage they cause, may become a cornerstone of global policy. This idea resonates deeply with citizens who have grown weary of endless conflicts fought with weapons instead of principles. Inside Russia, the response from the government has been one of anger and defiance. State officials denounce the move as theft, calling it a violation of international law. However, their ability to counteract it is limited. The Kremlin's retaliatory measures, including cutting off gas exports, banning foreign companies, and restricting currency flow, have failed to yield results. The Russian public's faith in leadership continues to waver as isolation deepens. Even friendly nations, once sympathetic to Moscow, are growing hesitant to align too closely, fearing secondary sanctions and financial consequences. This isolation is shrinking Russia's global footprint faster than any military defeat could have. The impact on global markets is mixed but manageable. While certain sectors have faced volatility, investor confidence in Europe's unity and leadership is rising. The markets recognize that this crisis, though intense, is being handled with coordination and foresight. The European Central Bank has launched stabilization measures to cushion economies against sudden shocks. Meanwhile, renewable energy sectors are booming as nations accelerate independence from Russian energy. In the long term, this economic transition could position Europe as a global leader in sustainable development and geopolitical stability. The psychological effect of this move cannot be overstated. For decades, Russia's power was amplified by its wealth, the luxury of its elites, the influence of its energy exports, and the fear that its money could buy loyalty anywhere in the world. That illusion has been shattered. The idea that money can always guarantee protection no longer holds true. European and allied governments have proven that with unity and determination, even the most hidden fortunes can be seized and redirected toward justice. The world has witnessed the transformation of wealth from a symbol of dominance into an instrument of accountability. In the broader narrative of history, this moment will be remembered as the dawn of economic warfare, as a legitimate tool of peacekeeping. Instead of endless cycles of armed conflict, nations are discovering new ways to enforce justice through law, finance, and technology. Europe has demonstrated that the battlefield of the 21st century is not only fought on land or in the sky, but within networks of data, trade, and global banking. This strategy minimizes casualties while maximizing impact, forcing aggressors to face the consequences of their actions without destroying entire nations in the process. As the months unfold, the true test of this initiative will be sustainability. Can Europe maintain its unity as economic pressures rise? Can Ukraine continue to channel these funds effectively toward victory and reconstruction? And will Russia adapt, resist, or collapse under the weight of its own lost wealth? These questions will define the future of Eurasia and possibly the global order itself. But for now, the message is clear. Europe has struck hard, not with bombs or tanks, but with intelligence, precision, and moral conviction. Putin's hold on power, once unshakable, now faces its greatest challenge. His regime has lost not only wealth, but the illusion of invincibility. The loss of financial resources translates into the loss of control, influence, and confidence among those who kept him in power. As his circle narrows and his nation strains under pressure, history may look back at this moment as the turning point, the day when financial justice began to rewrite the rules of global conflict. The world is watching closely, and though the road ahead remains uncertain, one truth stands out more clearly than ever before. Power built on corruption and aggression will eventually be reclaimed by the forces of justice and unity. Europe's actions have proven that when nations stand together, even the most powerful aggressor can be brought to its knees without a single shot being fired. The economic battlefield has replaced the old war front, and the new era of global power is being defined not by who has the most weapons, but by who controls the world's wealth, data, and moral direction. What began as an urgent strike may ultimately become a global transformation, one where justice, resilience, and unity shape the destiny of nations.